All right, hello everyone. Right here? Yeah? Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to Xano Friends Secure in. Ooh. Can we go back to the slides? Awesome. Welcome everyone. Xano Friends, secure and sustainable apps with no-code stacks. Our Xano Friends today are Bravo Studio, WeWeb, and NC Scale. My name is Michael Yudinsky. I lead developer advocacy at Xano. A quick agenda, we'll go through an introduction, talk about no-code stacks, Xano powering the no-code stack as the scalable, secure, single source of truth, Bravo Studio providing the native mobile app, WeWeb, the web app, and NC Scale providing observability and monitoring. And then we'll do a demo and some Q&A. So you may have heard of tech stacks before. So what exactly is it? This is a simplified diagram, but they are different programming language, scripts, etc. that stack together in combination and collaboration to build software for your end user. So in traditional tech stacks, you might have heard of lamp stack, mean stack, or jam stack. So just like in traditional software stacks, we have stacks in no-code. And so one stigma about no-code is that traditionally it's not scalable. However, what we've seen in today's no-code tools is when you can combine no-code tools that do something, focus on one thing very, very well, not only is it scalable, but it can be done so in a sustainable and secure fashion. So today's no-code stack we're going to talk about is Xano, Bravo Studio, NC Scale, and WeWeb. So Xano powering this no-code stack as the scalable single source of truth, providing the entire backend. So that includes a powerful server, a flexible database, and a no-code API builder to define all of your business logic. Now, not only is Xano no-code first, but we're also developer friendly, and some of these features become very important as you talk about scale to large production applications. So the ability to sidecar a Docker microservice with Xano, having cloud portability, so bring your own cloud, et cetera, et cetera. Lambda function, Redis caching, connection to the PostgreSQL database. These things become more and more important as you think about sustaining your app for large scale. Now, more on a secure and sustainable app. So Xano deploys a single tenant instance. And why is that important? So you are on your own dedicated server. So let's say that another Xano user gets hacked. Well, you are completely isolated from that, completely unaffected, because you're on your own server. With a single tenant deployment, this allows us to achieve various security and compliance standards you're seeing on the screen here. We're constantly going through audits and penetration tests to achieve things like SOC 2, GDPR, ISO 27001, even HIPAA compliance. And your data is secure with Xano. It's encrypted at transmission, or in transmission and at rest. Now, to kind of hammer home the sustainable and scalable part, you can scale Xano from an MVP to large-scale production because of our infrastructure. We use Docker to provision every instance, Kubernetes to orchestrate scaling, a flexible database in PostgreSQL, all deployed on the Google Cloud, or of course, bring your own cloud infrastructure. Also, if you think about sustainable development, maintaining your app through its entirety, speed of development is one of the main benefits of NoCode, being able to iterate very quickly for evolving functional requirements and market trends to keep up. So with Xano, you can connect any app, power many front ends. So why is that important? Because today your stack might be Xano, Bravo Studio, WeWeb, NC Scale, but as you grow, as you scale, this stack might grow bigger, and you can connect to more front ends, increase your stack with Xano powering it all as the single source of truth.
My turn. Hi, I'm Toby Oliver. I'm the CEO of Bravo Studio. So I've just got a couple of slides just to kind of add on to what Michael said. So first of all, just to let you know what Bravo Studio is. Bravo Studio is a slightly different take than some other tools out there. We are very design focused. Everything in Bravo is driven from a design from Figma. And actually, the Figma stays in sync, so it means it's a critical part of how we work. We basically connect that design to APIs, and that's where Bravo Studio ends. We don't have any backend, and that's why Xano is such a perfect tool for us, because it's such a solid, really robust backend. We can just move all the backend logic, and that's particularly helpful in mobile, because that means you don't have to do so many updates to the App Store, because all the logic's in the back end. So you can change the back end logic without having to worry about it and just leave the design in the App Store effectively. What we do in Bravo Studio, though, is we do have put in a lot of the mobile complexity and into Bravo. So things like in-app purchasing and notifications, deep linking, the stuff that is hard, we take care of. So you can just focus on basically your design, connect through to Xano, and get the mobile piece done. That's really where we come from. Our philosophy is, being a piece, connecting to other great pieces of software like Xano, means that everyone gives you the most flexibility of what you need to do. So why Bravo Studio? I think the biggest selling point for us is the design flexibility, the connection to Figma. So many people, everyone has Figma these days. It's ridiculous. And since Adobe bought Figma, or was in the process of buying Figma, all the Adobe XD users are having to move across as well. And I think this is particularly important. There's so many people design stuff in Figma, or have designers building their wireframes in Figma, that often it starts there. And then what tends to happen is you often have to design in Figma and then build it somewhere else. With Bravo, Figma is your source of truth for the design. And actually it stays in sync. So as you make changes to Figma, you can push it through to Bravo, even to a live app. Which means you can iterate incredibly fast in design, which is really difficult to do otherwise. Backend freedom, APIs is a super critical part. I think it's going to be an increasingly important part because there's so much going on in the API space. Connecting to anything through APIs is super important and helpful for us. And as I say, all this basically means you can prototype faster and iterate quickly and get to market faster. That's what Bravo is about. And I think having something like Xano, which kind of brings everything together, makes it all work properly. Okay, Slava's turn.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Slava. What I do is I handle enterprise and agency relationships. I also handle commercial issues and business development for WeWeb globally. Thank you to Xano for having us here. We are big fans of Xano, and we are particularly proud of the latest version of our Xano plugin, which is really fully featured and exposes everything, including the metadata of Xano. So it's a really, really powerful addition to WeWeb. So what is WeWeb? So many people call these tools, these platforms in so many different ways. We like to say it's a no-code front-end builder for web applications. So we do not do native mobile apps today. We'll look at it next year, but today you only build web apps. You can build progressive web apps with WeWeb, so users can install those apps onto their device, but they cannot be submitted to the App Store. It's a visual drag and drop editor, very similar to Webflow and Wix or EditorX or all these tools, similar UI. In fact, with our UI, we are purposely anti-innovative. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to have an UI where everyone feels comfortable building from day one. Plugins and extensions provide that connectivity to the external world, APIs or all kinds of other third-party external services. And like many companies, we have fully embraced AI, but maybe with a slightly different twist. We really focus on embracing AI as a tool to improve the productivity or increase the productivity of people building, things inside WeWeb. Deployed applications, so the applications that are created in WeWeb are actually completely standard Vue.js applications that are hosted either on AWS or you can self-host in your own environment. I'll talk about that later. So why WeWeb? One thing we are particularly proud of is what we call design freedom. So today, whatever we talked about Figma, whatever you can design in Figma, you can build in WeWeb. Today, manually, but we are just about to release our Figma importer soon. It's imminent, so that will speed up the process manually, the process of building an app. We took our time with that one because we really wanted to make sure that it really dramatically improves the productivity. And there is a reason behind all of this. WeWeb originally started as a website builder back in the day when Webflow also was out there. At some point in time, we decided to pivot to an application builder. But what remained was the high fidelity of the UI that you can build with WeWeb, and that is very, very unique, obviously fully responsive. Backend freedom, you can connect to anything with the REST API. For some data sources or some extensions, we have plugins. But one thing I would like to say here is you do not need plugins to connect to something. The plugins are there just to make your life easier, but you can connect to anything just using REST API. And it's very, very straightforward. And the connections are direct to that third service. They do not go through WeWeb infrastructure. So no performance tax is added on top of that direct connection, which is quite important for scalability. Hosting freedom, big one. I guess it caught us somewhat by surprise, the demand for self-hosting, but for building applications for highly regulated areas, whether it's GDPR in Europe. And as you have heard this morning at the main stage during the opening, many countries are coming out with their own version of GDPR. Middle East, for example, is very big on data residency. So there are more and more environments where you really, to fully comply, you need to self-host. So you can export code, clean code, you can export compiled application from WeWeb and host it on your infrastructure. And we don't see that last bit, enterprise ready. So we cover most of the authentication methods. We have, staging environment, editor rollbacks, editor snapshots, everything, logs nowadays to make it enterprise friendly. Okay, I'll hand it over to.
Thank you. Thank you, Xano, for this invitation. We really appreciate this. And so I'm the co-founder and the CEO of NCScale. And Xano just released NCScale integration 2 weeks ago. And so we are so excited about this. And we have so many users really happy about this too. So I can't wait to share more about this soon. So what is NCScale? NCScale monitors your NoCode stack. And so you can monitor all Xano logs. So if you have errors in your Xano instance, you can be alerted immediately on Slack, via a webhook, or via email. So it is a new way to be alerted when there is an error. And you don't need to add a snippet in each function in your API to be alerted in the way that you want. And you can filter the logs for this. We do also other things, observability and security and quality for other tools, other products. And I think that the next integration with Xano will be the observability. to see the dependencies and to be able to search in full text all your API parameters. So as I said, you can monitor your API errors. If you have a too long time executions, so if it is more than 1 second, 2 seconds, you can be alerted. You can just manage what is a good time for you. And also you can add some business logic errors on NC scale. So you can see all these errors and then you can just filter them which are very important or less important as you want. So it's a demo time.
All right. So if Wi-Fi likes us, we're going to show a quick demo. Great. All right. I know I'm blocking a little bit, but right now we're looking at a Xano workspace. This demo is of a CRM template, actually created by WeWeb. So Xano has reusable templates. We call them snippets. Right now, this is all the API endpoints, which is automatically documented. We're connected to a WeWeb front end, a Bravo Studio front end, and NC Scale is automatically recording all the logs that are happening on our API endpoints. So our API endpoints is how we're connected to both our front ends. And then through our Xano Connect Center, we have our integration with NC Scale. It's a one-click connect. We enable the API request history, task history, logs, all to be synced up. So we're going to pass it over to WeWeb now. Oh, yeah.
It's quick time. I think it's up there. That's good. And, yeah. Okay. We don't have time for anything really extensive, but I just want to come back to the Xano piece. So Michael showed you, for example, the authentication endpoints in his Xano workspace. And for those of you who have seen WeWeb, you already know that, but I just wanted to show you, well, I guess you can't see much, okay? Sorry, I'll jump back and forth. So the endpoints that you've seen in the Xano workspace, you simply enter into the WeWeb authentication plugin. Of course, you have to enter your API key in there, which will connect you to that Xano instance. You enter these endpoints, and that is basically it. That is how you configure your authentication with Xano, and you can go ahead and start authenticating your users. You can also, it's not here, but you can also do roles and permissions for that granular authentication. Okay, so for this demo, really, I'm just going to use the CRM template that is available when you create a WeWeb account. This is that template. It installs into your WeWeb workspace together with a Xano snippet that creates the real fake data set that you have here. And really what we just want to show here is how simple it is to integrate Bravo Studio and WeWeb and Xano. So here is that simple. And I'm doing it from the editor, so obviously it's a little slower than the published application. So, if I just create a new deal and call it scheduled. Basically, just send it to Xano, so it will get created. It's added to Xano and to the CRM template, and then
if I click on scheduled, nothing happens. 1 second. God damn it. 1 second. We had a problem with Wi-Fi. Let me just see if I can reset this. So just what I'm doing here is just coming out of the app and logging in again, see if that fixes it. So what Bravo does allows you to have, this is our Bravo Vision previewer, so you basically have all your applications in one place. I'm going straight into the CRM one here. I'm just going to log in as Slavo.
super secure.
This is very.
This is how we build scalable applications.
This is how not to do it.
Never share passwords.
So if was it scheduled?
Yeah, no, it's demo. It's up here.
It's there, and there it goes. So sorry, I had to refresh. But basically, the key point here is all the data is coming from the same place. We're both WeWeb and ourselves are looking at Xano for the point of truth. Our refreshing didn't work because of Wi-Fi, hopefully. But the point is that we don't have different sources of data. We have to keep in sync. We're all looking at the same thing, and I think that's where the API and the benefits of having a single place to reposit across the different front ends, it makes it super powerful. So.
And then you want to monitor if you have some errors on your CRM action. For example, if you miss a description deal and you don't know why it was working on the front end, but not for the back end. So if we go on the logs on NC Scale, so we see all the logs of your Xano instance, and then you can see that we can see errors and also success API call. And you have all the metadata and extra data to be able to filter after on this. So you can filter on IP, you can filter on message, on the status, and whatever, even on the request header. And so when you see this, the goal is to be alerted. So you can create one observer, and I want to connect here quickly with my QL accounts. And you will be able to create some observer directly here. And after creating, so I'm creating one observer, so it is an alert. I'm choosing my Xano instance, and I can create some filters on keys that you just saw before in the log. So I will take all errors, but I can add any other key for the data source, endpoint, whatever, in the message, status. So you can really customize what kind of logs you want to be alerted. And then you can add a channel. So you can be alerted on Slack, via email, or via another webhook, maybe to launch another thing after. So you can imagine a full error management thanks to this. And we already show how to connect. So you can select what kind of logs you want to send to NC Scale. And you can also, on your API, customize, and you can send custom logs, so log statements. And just by going here, in your function stack, you can add a custom log for the business logic or whatever. So you can add a severity of what you want, an event name, a message. So you can have native logs plus other logs in the same place. And we will have soon WeWeb integration. So you will have your WeWeb workflow errors and the Xano instance error in the same place. That's all.
We'll open up for any questions.
Thank you, all of you, for your talk. So, two questions. So, in the app, where does the data goes? Like, mean from one app to the other? Is it stored somewhere, or it's just a flux? Or how does it work regarding all those data going from one app to another? And how does work NC Scale? How do you get those information and all those logs?
Yeah, so the data is all being transmitted through the Xano API. So when Slavo added the new deal, that hit a Xano API, stored it in the Xano database. And so when Toby refreshed his app and hit the Xano API to get a record from the database, or get records from the database, because that new deal that was recorded through the WeWeb frontend, through the Xano API, is now in the Xano database. When Bravo Studio calls the Xano API, that data is there. And do you want to talk about NC Scale?
It's yes, and when there is a new log in Xano, Xano sends this log to NCScale directly. So it is just in this way, and then we just store the logs and display it in NCScale dashboard. On no. Yes, where we store the data, it is on AWS behind many firewall.
Hello, there's a question to Xano. I'm just curious what kind of features you're planning to roll out or maybe already have rolled out in terms of AI, for example, function writing or anything else.
What can I disclose? Yeah, we are thinking about how to incorporate AI into the product. We've got some ideas. I'm going to pass it to my CEO to.
Hi, everyone. All right. Well, I think broadly speaking, the way we think about AI, there's basically two categories. The one is how we can help our Xano users build faster and in a more, I think, sustainable way for the future and building for scale. And then the other is how do we give our Xano users access to AI capabilities. So on the first side, we basically have some things that you're going to start to see launched towards the end of the year that make it much faster to build. And there's a couple different components that I think Michael was hesitating on, but I think what you can expect is that if you already know how to use the Xano product, you'll be able to just build and share pieces of your application faster. But in doing so, we've also made it to where we can train a model to then help assist you to build as well. So that's on the building faster piece. And on the second piece, if you think about, basically leveraging AI outside of GPT, you have to know about Hugging Face and potentially Docker Container and PyTorch and all these different things. But we believe that there is a new generation of software developers that look like more of product owners, like all of you, right? And so how do we make software creation and accessing the power of AI accessible to you? If you wanted to create, for example, leveraging an open source LLM with Xano, how do you do that in one click? So we're working on that piece of it as well. So hopefully that answers your question. And just while I'm up here, let me thank all of our awesome partners and friends. I think it's like really important, as Michael emphasized, to know that we aren't alone as kind of a no-code vendor, that we couldn't exist without amazing partners like everyone that you see here. And we're just really excited that we get to work with you all and share in customers. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you, gentlemen. This was a fantastic conversation, discussion today. The elephant in the room is one of the big dichotomies, right, that we're seeing right now in NoCode is between those that are tightly coupled, right, front end, back end, all in one, you go to one service and you're done, versus your approach of being a bit more federated, having best-in-class pieces that you're putting together here. I was wondering whether you, and particularly, Toby, Slavo, and Michael, if you could speak to your experiences and kind of make the case to the people in this room of why this best of class, let's assemble the pieces, is the right way to go, because I bet that's a decision point for a lot of the people in this room today.
I love controversial topics. I don't think there is one size fits all, and I don't think there is a best solution. We took the decoupled path because we fundamentally believe that is the best path for scalability and performance. WeWeb, from the get-go, was intended to be used to build production-grade, scalable applications, especially when coupled with a highly performant backend like Xano. I mean, I wish I could share more, but some of the applications we have running on WeWeb and Xano are insane in terms of scale and performance. You know, things that even if someone would ask me 6 months ago whether they can be done in NoCode, I would say no. I would laugh. But today they are there, they are running. So we believe that path is the one for scalability and performance. But at the same time, we're not saying that that is better than monolithic, you know, coupled tools. Those probably are better to get off the ground quicker because you don't have to learn the front end and the back end. You have everything in one. And so, you know, if you are, you know, if you're building an MVP or an application where you really need to get something done very, very quickly with the shortest learning curve, you know, that's the go-to. So I think it really depends on the use case, you know, and I just don't think there is one size fits all. But we are firmly staying in the decoupled world. We, as much as we like Xano and we love Xano, we want to be backend agnostic, and we enable, you know, connectivity to, you know, to any other service. And for example, we are, you know, we're going to add probably a lot more plugins to other external services. But yeah, I don't think there's one size fits all, and that has been our philosophy. Yeah.
I just like to add a little thing to that. I mean, I agree pretty much all of that. The thing, okay, all of it, right, fine. The thing for me is, I mean, this whole decoupled approach, I mean, there is always arguments about where you do it, where are the domains that you kind of split, and making sure you're looking at the right split of the tasks that you're doing. But I think fundamentally, the important part for me is this is like how Unix come from. A lot of development is done in times. You just do one task really, really well, and then you connect the other tasks you do really well. But I think particularly relevant for today's world where everything is moving so fast, we don't know what tomorrow looks like. And so being able to have the choice to change things easily and say, you know what, I want to start with Airtable, and then go to Xano because, you know, Airtable's free and easy and I can know it, but then I need more, I need to go to Xano. So having the choice at the beginning gives you more options. I mean, if you know exactly what you want, monolithic is super helpful, but I think if you want to have the options and make sure you've got whatever is coming next, then being able to decouple things where you need to is super powerful. So for me, it's about choice and about having the flexibility. But as always, with anything in development, the answer to every question is it depends. And you have to kind of figure out what makes sense for what the particular task.
Just sorry, because he mentioned Airtable and Xano, and this is a very interesting case. I want to expand on that. We have a lot of customers that build their entire company on Airtable, for example. And initially, it started off as Airtable for internal projects, some internal dashboards and stuff. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And those companies come to a point when they want to start exposing some of that data to their external customers through a web app. When Airtable interfaces don't work for them, they want to build a web app. And this is where they start to hit all kinds of limitations and big decision points. What do? Do they migrate Airtable somewhere else? Or do they scale through some other tools? So I usually recommend to scale through Xano. And we have a lot of cases out there. We work together with one company in California that has, I mean, that's the biggest Airtable I have ever seen. They have hundreds, if not thousands, of tables with millions and millions of records in their Airtable ecosystem. And they approached us some time ago and asked how to scale. I said, Xano is the way. And so we helped them set up a system that would sync data from Airtable to Xano, use Xano authentication, and expose whatever they want to expose to the public app through Xano, and it works like a dream. It's super performant. They keep building everything internally on Airtable, but they scale through Xano, you know, with their external web application. So there are so many companies like that, and for them to go to some sort of coupled, you know, with a coupled solution is not the answer. But coming back to what Toby said, it depends on the use case. So sorry, Michael.
No, you're good. Thank you, Ray, for that question, and Slavo and Toby for the comments. I totally agree. It depends. I would say one more thing. that I would add on to that is one thing we've seen as sort of an advantage of these decoupled stacks is co-development made easy, right? So sometimes in an all-in-one platform, it's, where do my back-end workflows end? Where do my front-end workflows start? Vice versa. Can get a little bit messy. And then if you start to expand your teams, okay, you have your back-end developers, what goes where? With decoupled stacks, it's very clear where your back-end workflows are. They're in your back-end platform. Your front-end workflows in your front-end platform. So especially as you start to grow and you have your front-end team, your back-end team, very clear where those responsibilities lie.
Hi, so I'm Mark from Tilin. I am a Xano user as well. Well, thank you for that presentation. It's really nice to see this cooperation between all of you startups. I was wondering for Xano, what are your plans about having offices here in France or in Europe? For example, for the chat support and stuff.
Great question. We just hired some more customer support reps in different time zones around the world. They're getting onboarded right now, so we'll soon have kind of around-the-clock support.
With that split approach, how do you manage the deployment process so that you ensure WeWeb version fits to the backend version of Xano? And the other part of the question would be how does quality assurance can be made automatically? So I don't want to have someone clicking around, but I want to have a deployment process where, I don't know, something is in the middle, asking were my tests positive, go deploy. So that's something I'm missing with other tools which are fully integrated.
You would do that with a deployed app, the final app, which is a Vue.js app. And you can test it like you would test any other normal app or a coded app. There is no difference. You would not do this kind of testing on the development environment of either WeWeb or Xano. You will do it on the deployed app. Now, specifically for WeWeb, for deployment, you can use the WeWeb infrastructure, which is AWS. So your app, when you deploy it, gets deployed onto AWS servers and then gets replicated using CloudFront around the world for maximum performance. But it is just a Vue.js app, and you can deploy any tests you want on that Vue.js app. Now, you can also self-host a WeWeb application, which is still a Vue.js app. It's the same app, but you can host it on your own infrastructure. And for our enterprise customers, we offer access to what we call self-hosting API. And you can write then scripts that fully automate this deployment environment. You can include testing in the deployment environment or in the deployment flow or process. You have the freedom to do whatever you wish. You can do those tests during deployment. You can do that after deployment, but that is only when you host on your own infrastructure.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. With Xano, you have different branches and environments, so you can test out your different business logic before you're satisfied and want to set it live and click of a button, roll back just in case anything happened. Now, we don't have any automated testing baked into the product at this time, but that is something we're mindful of and thinking about looking forward. Any other questions? All right, thank you all.